Hey guys, welcome back to another Dragonheir Silent Gods video. Today I'm going to be showcasing another one of the teams that I used for the Resurgent Dragon boss. Unfortunately, the boss is already dead on my server, so I can't show you it in action live. I have pre-recorded the footage for it, but I am going to just jump in here and we'll have a look at the team I used and I'll explain why I made these choices. So this team does use no legendary heroes, and in fact, it's quite heavily carried by one of the rare heroes that I'm using. Obviously, there are plenty of options in this faction, but not a huge amount available, so I had to kind of work with what I had. So as you can see here, I'm using two rares and 3 epic heroes. So one of the biggest problems with Necrosis and Ice is the massive lack of support in tanks and healers. So as a tank, I'm using the rare Loris. The main reason for this is on his ultimate, he does an attack penalty. So that is the biggest thing for me. I needed to make sure that the boss had attack penalty every time it got its ultimate skill off. As well as that, he also does self-shield, so he supports himself a little bit. And that's kind of irrelevant. In terms of his build, I've got him in the Ancestral Protection set, just built with enough accuracy to land debuffs on the boss. And he's also wearing the Spiritual Incense Burner artifact. The reason for that is every time that he uses his ultimate skill, when he recharges the energy from this, he will take off one of the stacks on the boss. It's not always necessary in this team. In fact, it's very rare that it's needed, but it's just that additional little boost to help make sure that the boss has no stacks when the ultimate comes around. And as for my healer, I'm using Thea, the epic from Necrosis. So she doesn't actually do a huge amount of healing, but what she does do is cover the debuffs. So with her ultimate skill here, she grants invisibility and debuff immunity to all of the ranged allies for 10 seconds, and then deals necrotic damage with a 75% chance of inflicting healing prohibition. Healing prohibition is irrelevant here, we don't care about that. What we do care about is the debuff immunity to all ranged allies. Obviously that does mean my tank is still going to be taking debuffs, but it's really not an issue in this run at all. Obviously with her passive, she does, her battle skill, she does do some healing to the current lowest HP and all allies under invisibility. So you'll get some healing on your ranged heroes as well. As you can see, I've not built her with any accuracy. She is built in the 3 Years Emblem set just to make sure that she's getting some, the rest of my team are getting increased attack whenever she uses her ultimate skill. And she's wearing the Ancestor's Candle artifact just to reduce her battle skill cooldown, just to get that off as many times as possible. Other than that, she's just built to survive with some enlightenment as well. Next up, I've got the rare who really carries this team. Obviously, with how this boss works, you want to make sure that there's no stacks of the Dragon Rage buff on the boss every time it uses its ultimate skill. So to do that, you need to boost or reduce ultimate turn meter, ultimate energy, sorry. So here on the ultimate skill, she has a chance to reduce the ultimate energy 3 times as it hits 3 times. And it also places recharging speed penalty for 10 seconds. So this skill alone makes a huge dent into the requirements for this boss. Obviously, it on its own takes 3 of the 4 stacks away. On her battle skill, she does accuracy penalty 1. Not necessarily important here. It could potentially help keep my tank from getting debuffs if it lands at the right time, but we're not hugely worried about that. And as well as that, she ignores 30% of resistance when attacking enemies inflicted with debuffs, so her accuracy requirement is slightly lower. As for her build, she's built with skill haste and accuracy. She's also built with crit rate to get some extra damage out. I've not crit capped her, but she's just got a little bit of crit rate and some crit damage in there, so she's wearing a crit damage positive rune. She's also wearing the Crown of the Unclean because of the multi-hit ultimate skill. She just lands it almost every time when she uses her ultimate. Next up, I've got my 2 damage dealers, and they are kind of damage dealers slash healers the way they're built here. So I've got Zaloth, who with his passive skill, every 4th basic attack he'll heal the ally with the lowest current health by 300% of his attack. His battle skill does damage and places a recharging speed penalty, and his ultimate skill just does continuous damage at a targeted location. So that is hitting all 3 heads at the same time. It also heals all allies by 30% of attack. Obviously, the more enemies you're hitting with this, the more healing it's doing as well. With the boss having 3 targetable areas, you're getting 3 bonuses for this. So in terms of healing output, Zaloth does quite a good amount. And lastly, we've got Varesh. So I've got Varesh built with he's in a Gambler set to get some max HP damage out. He's also built with a good amount of attack, some crit rate, some crit damage. I've not built him for accuracy at all because we don't care about the buff prohibition from his ultimate skill. But in terms of the damage he's dealing, he's up there in my team. And obviously he does have a passive where every time he attacks, he heals the ally with the lowest health by 70% of his attack. So that can only trigger once when dealing damage to multiple targets, but the consistency that he's attacking with, obviously he's attacking 3 times on his battle skill, 3 times on his ultimate, you get a lot of healing out of Varesh. So if we jump into the run, I'll kind of explain how this works and then I'll leave it to play so you guys can watch it. Right, so as the run starts here, you can see that I am completely manualing this. This is just because I was a little bit preoccupied. I wasn't able to go through and find the time to tune the skills to use them on auto. I didn't really mind having a few minutes out of my day just to manual this run each day. So the key to this is making sure that I'm rotating my skills at the right times. So attack penalty needs to be placed on the boss just before the ultimate skill. The Adri's ultimate skill needs to be used before each of the boss's ultimates to make sure that he has no stacks up. But the way I timed this meant that I could also get this out during the time when the boss had the weakened debuff to get more damage out. So if you look here, I am obviously making sure that I've got all of the buffs gone before each ultimate, and then I'm getting some extra damage out through both my Zalof, my Adri, and my Varesh every time the boss is stunned. And lastly, my Thea is using her ultimate skill just after the third skill's gone out, so before the debuffs land, and that makes sure I've got full coverage for debuffs from the attack penalty, the defense penalty, the recharge speed, and the accuracy penalty that the boss places after it's under 50% health. So this just means that all of my ranged damage dealers are completely protected from any debuffs. The only person taking them is my tank, which isn't relevant. He can still get his attack penalty out every time, and he's not the first to die by any means. So I'll leave this run to play out. You can see that I'm using the exact same skills at the exact same time throughout this fight, which obviously you would be able to set up on auto timers if you had the time to play around with that. With the ultimate energy being reduced, it does get a little bit awkward, but it is possible, that's for sure. Died, so I'm just putting everybody on auto just to finish up, do as much damage as possible. In terms of the damage this does, it's around 35 million, which isn't a huge amount, but at the same time, for a team that has no legendary heroes, no legendary artifacts, and obviously 2 rares kind of carrying it, it really is kind of helpful towards getting that at minimum of 140 million damage each day for the top rewards. Everything after that is purely for the ranking rewards. Obviously, the more you do, the better. But it's a really nice consistent team that I used it throughout the entire of the Resurgent Dragon because I was limited on options. I didn't want to spend hours and hours building and tweaking new teams when the boss only lasted for about 3 or 4 days. So this was one that I had built, I had the heroes built from the Chaos Shadows anyway. So they kind of all complemented each other perfectly. There was a good amount of healing, a good amount of damage, and the perfect amount of control for the boss's buffs. So thank you very much for watching this video today, guys. If you obviously do use this team, please do let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see how you get on. But we'll see you in the next video.